Hi, so our presentation today, first of all, I'm Tristan and this is Ben. For a presentation today about the assignment, we decided to take the second video, which was about Shoal Lake 40 and the problems with the governmental powers and municipal and federal powers and all that stuff with the acquisition of water.
Alright, so a quick summary to start the whole thing. The short video watched is about a young woman who works for Vice, who visits a community of Shoal Lake 40, like Tristan said. This community is part of 169 First Nation communities who does not have the possibility to obtain fresh water. The lady visits many people in the community to obtain their point of view on the whole situation, like a teenager who is working on Freedom Road, a man who has to deliver all the water with his own truck, and the chief of the community. She also visits other people like a mother to obtain her point of view on the whole thing. She then goes to a gather-up talk about Freedom Road. Freedom Road is what would connect Shoal Lake 40 to the Trans-Canada Highway. This would give a chance for the community to obtain their needs with their cards instead of using a boat, since Shoal Lake 40 is only accessible by boat. The highway is around 22 minutes apart from the community if they were to build the road. The gather-up is finally the day where the constructions for Freedom Road finally begins. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and the following point, like we were just talking about, which was the gather-up, basically, it was basically the following action of the actual interview, because the government actually stepped into the community and Shoal Lake 40, and they had this big thing because they actually donated $1 million to Freedom Road, but the citizens or the inhabitants of Shoal Lake 40 were very unhappy because it felt to them as if the government has been doing this to them for the past years, and they haven't really been applying any solutions, but they've more been repeating the same thing. So that's why they feel targeted and they feel disrespected.
Yeah. So our opinion on the whole matter, knowing this is a really short document created by Vice, it is hard to obtain all the information concerning the matter. So we don't really actually know all the politics involved around it, which is sad. We believe that Freedom Road should have been built quite a few years ago, since it has been a long time Shoal Lake 40 has not had clean water to drink out of, except for bottled water. Each person in the community, except for the kids and other people like that, pay around $1,000 to have bottled water, when the community of Winnipeg only pays around $300. This proves that there is a major problem and must be resolved. We also believe that the government of Canada should stop putting this problem aside, since they are not the only community with such a problem. To finish, this is a problem that must be solved as soon as possible, since these people are struggling to have fresh water or even resources because the community is only accessible by boat. This is a brief video we believe to describe one of the many problems that the Canadian government is putting aside.
So, in my opinion, there's something that really struck me about this. I'm not sure if there's something particularly you want to talk about after my point, but one thing that really struck me about this video, for my opinion, is that the fact that the government actually didn't want to give them a water treatment plant for their own Shoal Lake 40. And the fact is that they actually wanted to have a water plant between Shoal Lake 39 and Shoal Lake 40, which is something that I found pretty disrespectful, because as much as, yes, they're both reserves, and yes, they're both like co-living with each other because they're technically beside, there's two different communities completely, and I believe that every single city of their own should deserve their own water treatment plant, because every city is particular to one set of people. So that was something that I found really how can I say this, mind-boggling in the video, and something that I really couldn't wrap my head around. Yep. Was there a point specific for you, or? No,
I think I described everything we've chosen for the opinion. It's just like I said, it is pretty, not annoying, but it's sad as citizens of Canada to know that the government is pushing aside 169 First Nation communities when they were here before us. Like, it's a major problem, and the government is just putting it aside or going with the same resolutions all the time.
And they've come out before publicly, like the Prime Minister of Canada has come out and publicly apologized when it was Stephen Harper. He publicly came out and apologized to the First Nations people and gave the biggest sorry he possibly could in front of the biggest crowd he could. And yet again, the sorry doesn't really mean anything, because Shoal Lake 40 is a perfect example of the government not really doing anything to back it up, because they're not really helping. As much as they did fund, and Ontario and Alberta actually pitched in $10 million each, which is a point I'm going to get to later on in the presentation, it's something that the federal powers still have to address. So if we talk about the analysis here, to interpret what a theorist would think about the functionalist theory, first we got to put the definition in stone. So the definition I put was that when we look at functionalist theory in perspective, and how in terms it has a direct relationship with the people of Shoal Lake 40, it's this idea where communities nationwide work with municipal, federal, and provincial powers to try and have stability, balance, and happiness, or non-angerment or non-anger in the communities to make sure that everything flows in society correctly. And they also provide financial, educational, and economic help to the communities. With this being said, a theorist would clearly be able to tell that this perspective isn't being put into effect, because Shoal Lake 40 has been suffering for years, like we were previously saying, with no potable water and no major roadway to access it. The only major roadway, like we said, was the Trans-Canada Highway, which is 20 minutes away from the community without an actual set road to get to them. It's costing the community more money per person just to drink water per year, which was, I think, roughly around $1,000 just in plastic bottles and just in big barrels of water, compared to the citizens of Winnipeg, where one person with just the easiness of opening the tap water costs them about, if I was correct, $300 per person every year.
Correct.
So the government is providing the community no ways of distributing the water, but they're left to themselves, where the guy with the pickup truck had to go around, and they have to use their own resources to distribute it. And like I said, of course, like functionalist theory could be applied in a way where the two provinces actually helped in and provided them with $10 million. But this is where the thing where it contradicts it, because the federal powers aren't really doing anything much to help them either. So it's causing a big outrage in Shoal Lake 40. And so in terms, there's no balance, there's no stability, and there's no economic finance. Yes, there is, but they're still left to themselves to like really, they're not giving them workers, they're not giving them any budget or salaries for them to actually build the roads, and the community is left to deal with it with themselves. Do you have anything else to say with that?
No, I think you have strong points.
Okay. And for the conflict theory, this is actually the complete opposite of functionalist theory, where conflict theory claims that society is in a state of conflict because of competition for limited resources, and it states that order within communities is maintained by domination and power rather than consensus and conformity. And according to the conflict theory, those with wealth and power try to hold on as much or as long as they can, because they value their wealth, and with that being said, they try and suppress people of lower powers, of lower social status, because they don't deem them to be important in society, which is what conflict theory is all about. So the poor and powerless being Shoal Lake 40, and this is exactly what's happening to them. They're being suppressed by provincial powers and federal powers, and are being left on their own with barely no help. They don't view them of importance, and view them as a disturbance to more urbanized societies like Winnipeg, for example, and they view them as lesser importance in their society or day-to-day duties to try and fix other societies around them. And if they keep doing this, more deaths are going to outcome. The youth will be raised in terrible conditions, and Shoal Lake won't have access to basic human rights like water to survive. Just the fact that federal or municipal powers don't even come into effect after all the deaths that's happened on the lake because of their one way of transportation, which was the boat across, kind of shocks me as well, because as much as Shoal Lake 40 is very well represented by this conflict theory, a theorist would clearly tell by the way they're living, the death rate for the amount of inhabitants they have. They have 250 inhabitants, and 9 people died last year, or the year when the video was recorded. It was kind of mind-boggling for me, and you can really tell the conflict theory is being applied.
Yeah, like you said, according with the deaths and the one-way trips with the boat, the one that was actually talking to a mother of 2 kids, she actually lost her mom because she tried to canoe to go get those resources that they weren't able to get during winter, and she sadly drowned. And it's sad to know that Canada is at a point where people have to do that just to get resources to live out for, like water and just other resources. Like during winter, Winnipeg has a lot of snow, and it's not normal that they have to walk or canoe just to go get those resources like water, food, or clothes, just to have heat. It's sad to know, and it's not something that anybody would want, I think.
And if we bring it back, this wraps around very well around the idea of conflict theory, because the government's not doing anything. These problems can be solved so quickly. It could just be that you just build a ridge, or you build a bridge just between the 2 points to get from A and B, and you just provide them with another way than just the boat to get across from side to side. That just itself would apply more of the functionalist theory and would actually help the community a lot more than just ignoring everything. And that might actually be a big problem that might help the government just lay off a little bit, because if you just give them that, they're going to be happy. Like, they're going to be happier than the current state they're in. And it's going to give them a little bit more hope that Freedom Road can be achieved.
Yeah, I think to conclude, because we're way over the time, Freedom Road is actually being built when the video came out, which is a good thing, even if it was delayed for quite a few years because of all the problems. But to conclude, I think for both of us, it definitely opened our mind even more to the problems that the Canadian government is pushing aside, like I was saying earlier.
And we can clearly tell that these issues in Shoal Lake 40 are more of a conflict theory based problems than it is functionalist theory, as the government are not providing any support. So that's pretty much it. Thank you, and hope you have a good one.